Jews and different form of Judaism, and everyone understands and interprets it in a different way. That moment, you made it a Reformed Jew for the rest of her life. She would not be able to get anything from Judaism. Everyone interprets it the way you want, blah, 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 blah. That's the end of it. Otherwise, should I say I'm wrong? An adult, should I say I'm wrong? Never! So she said to my daughter, how old am I? My wife asked my daughter, well, you're an adult. No, it's not true. I'm just 2 years old. Because you should count the time since we became Baal Tshuva. What you can expect from a baby of 2 years old? Be patient with me. I was doing quite fine for 2 years, right? And you'll see next year more, and the year after more. And on the contrary, we send you ahead into school to learn and show us an example and help us to grow. It's hard for us. She didn't say I'm perfect. She was humble, that's all. But she said, you see, this is the direction. This is the truth. I'm not the raw example of perfection. I'm the raw example of someone who wants to grow. Don't claim that you are the example of perfection. You should show an example of someone who wants to grow. And then the child will adore you, admire you, and no matter where you stand, as long as you keep growing slowly and steadily. You know, I know a guy who learns Torah, I think all day. This is his life. But it seems something is wrong with him. Whenever someone comes, he's so happy to stop learning and start chatting. You know, he's just using every opportunity, right? And once he comes, he loves to talk and chat. And everybody thinks that, he's so happy to put the learning aside. This is a terrible message he gives. And he has a serious problem now, to which extent his children would love to learn, even though he learns all day long. I'll give you a story on another person. This is a real story, very moving story. Have you heard about what is called a daf yomi? That to learn 1 page a day. There was a guy in Petach Tikva who came every evening to learn at 7 o'clock in the evening the daf yomi. Now, we'd sit there and start attending. But not everybody, every day is the same. Sometimes you take 1 minute, sometimes 2 minutes, some days you take 3 minutes. Never more. The rabbi said 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. Just come out, boom. Then the rabbi decided to talk with him. He said, please tell me what's going on. You see, to see, look, Rabbi, what can I do? I had some small business, I lost of money, and I owe a lot of money, so I work in 2 jobs. I wake up very early in the morning, 1 job, then the second job. I come home, I just have something, I take a shower and rush to the shiur. I'm exhausted to death. What can I do? I wake up, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So the rabbi said, no, well, it seems really it's not your fault, but if you have to sleep anyhow, it's better go sleep in your bed. So, I understand. So you're patur. You don't have to. Rabbi, you don't understand. My main problem is not the money. It's not the fact that I have to work so much. My main problem is that I don't have the time to invest in my children now. And the only thing which I invest in them now is to see that their daddy is so exhausted, still he goes every day to his learning. And he wants to take that from me. They admire me. And they dream about the day that they would go to learn. And you wanted to take that from me? He told him, I might learn 10 hours a day, and I'll never be rewarded as much as you get for sleeping in my shiur. I envy you. You don't have to be perfect. Just show them example of sincerity and growth. Now, you should understand that our relationship with our children and with our parents is not just when they're babies. It's true when we're adults. Sometimes, you have a child 30 years old, 25 years old. Can you tell him what to do? Even 16 years old, you cannot tell him what to do, right? Show him example. But not the example of perfection. You cannot be perfect. Show example of sincerity and devotion and consistency. Grow, become learn, devoted. Humbleness, but devotion, dedication. That's the best example in the world you can show. Some people tell me, look, I understand my daughter, she's divorcing and then she's 30 years old. What can I tell her? Don't tell her. Show her. Show her that you start growing. It's never too late to grow. Then she'll ask questions. Maybe she'll come to the next seminar, etc. You know, some people started changing the relationship with their parents, whether mature and adult, some of them, you know. And if you change your relationship with the parents, even when you're grown up, it changes your personality. You can grow tremendously. And once you apply that to your personality. So actually, the generation gap is not by mistake. It was implemented. It was planted as a leverage to grow. Because we were put into this kind of crisis that we must mold our identity. We must. And there are different channels. And we should channel it towards an absolute source of identity relating to God. I want to add one more crucial aspect to that. In our life, there are two periods which are almost unbridgeable. I call it the educational period and the working period. In the educational period, hopefully, theoretically, the parent and the teacher should encourage effort and brevity rather than results. Right? You're so brave, you try, you struggle, okay? It doesn't matter so much how much you achieve better next time, etc. But the working period, who cares about the effort? Your results are no good, your salary is that. Who cares how much you try? Who cares about results? This is life. Now, many of parents and teachers, unfortunately, don't educate anymore, and they talk like the boss in the factory. I want only results. So we never educate. But let's assume there is some educational part and there is the working part. But they're unbridgeable. All the messages that I got as a child are meaningless. It depends how brave you are, how much you try. Who cares? So all the messages that I got from education fall apart later on. But it's not true. I should be able to continue the educational process from inside. Because I talk to God. And I know that God appreciates effort and brevity rather than the results. So all the time, I continue educating myself. I know that the boss wants result. I'll try to give him. But I get much more than salary because I get the inward motivation. Because I tried hard and I did that and I trained myself and I was brave to struggle. I continue to educate because I talk to God and I know He is my teacher, He's my educator. And all the time He continues to gratify me for effort and brevity rather than just results. So really, if I give my child this power, I give him the ability to continue the process of education for the rest of his life. But for that, you have to internalize Judaism. And we do it in a very interesting way. Just imagine, I take a baby or a child, I give him a candy. I say, do a blessing, okay? So he does a blessing. It's sweet. So I compliment the baby or the child. I hug him. So you get a reward, right? But you get a physical or emotional reward. But I want to elevate it. I want to internalize it. So therefore, I move it one step higher. I said, you know now, you said a blessing, you created an angel. What did I do to him? Right? I help him now to internalize now this, not just as a physical, emotional reward from outside, but he can now reward himself from inside because he created an angel. So slowly, when you educate your child, you start with conditioning. He's just a baby. But we always connect it with education. And the more you grow, the dose of conditioning would go down and the dose of education would go up. When I say grow, it does not mean just chronologically, but grow emotionally. Some kids at the age of 20, you still need 95% of conditioning and only 5% of education. And some kids at the age of 10 already can have 80% of education. So the more he grows, maturity, you can give him less of conditioning and more of education. Now, the truth of the matter, I do it the same to me, to myself. I'm as a Baal Tshuva, I'm in a very strange situation. I'm the parent and I'm the child at the same time. I have to grow, but I'm the trainer. So I know it's hard for me. So I do a lot of conditioning to myself. If you do that, I'll give you that, I'll give you ice cream, I'll give you a movie, I'll do that. Yes, I'm talking to myself like a child. At the same time, I evoke myself with values. The more I grow, I need less conditioning, and the values are much more meaningful to me. There is a famous story in the Gmorah. It says that there was a dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and the sages. And according to the rules of the oral law, it should be decided by majority. But he was sure he was right. And actually it could not be decided, the issue by logic, because most of the problem we don't decide by majority, we decide by logic. This case could not be decided by logic. So in this case, when you cannot decide it by logic, you decide it by majority. While he was sure he was right. So he didn't want to give in. He started doing miracles to prove he's right. I mean, he was a great sage, and he was doing miracles one after other. Everybody was shocked. And at the end, they didn't accept it. He said, please, God, you tell them. And everybody heard a voice from heaven, how dare you argue with my son, Rabbi Eliezer, where the halacha is like him, whatever he says. Shh. Would you continue arguing now? When all the Beis HaMikdash, everybody heard this voice. Everybody almost fainted. And then the president, who was Rabbi Yoshua, stood up and says, you told us in the Torah to go according to majority. We followed it. So these are the rules of the Torah. And you promised the Torah is not in heaven. We should not go to a prophet to find what is the right decision. So therefore it must be a test. We don't accept it. Wow, you must be brave to do that. We follow majority. Everybody was shocked. Later on, there was a revelation of Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu the prophet, to one of the sages, to Rabbi Natan. So he told him, when he was so, such a chutzpah to say, we don't accept it. What God said at that moment. How did you react? So Eliyahu told him, he smiled and said, my children prevailed me, and I'm proud of them. Namely, I gave them the Torah, and they managed to internalize it to that extent that even if I challenge them, say, no, you cannot take it from us. Nobody in the world can tell me to do anything against the Torah. Almost as if even God knows. Of course, God can tell you temporarily not to, but not to change the Torah. If He tells you to change the Torah, names it's a lie. It's a test. Because He promised never to change the Torah. So, my greatest success with my child is when he's so firm with the Torah that even if I tell him something, he says, yes, Daddy, I respect you, but the Torah says something differently. And then I know how successful I am. And, one daughter of mine doesn't eat my meat. It's not kosher enough for her. Well, it depends on her husband. And I'm proud of her. I want them to rebel, but to this direction, not to this direction, you understand? So actually we should know that our goal is to build their independence. And if they are independent on my back, they're able not to depend on me, but depend on the truth. They're able to be independent and not to be vulnerable to anybody in the world. Thank you.